Welcome into the In Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Lynch, along with Keeneland's Director of Mutuals and Simulcasting, Jim Goodman. I'm in Memphis. Jim's in Lexington as we break down the Pick 4 on the Saturday card at Turfway, headlined by the Grade 3 Spiral Stakes on the road to the Kentucky Derby. And we'll take a look at the Dubai World Cup, which goes on Saturday as well. Jim, let's start with the Grade 3 Bourbonette Oaks. Actually, we'll start with the 8th race, the Rushaway. It's the first of 3 stakes, but it's ungraded. So 3 stakes and then a maiden race for the Pick 4. The Rushaway is the 8th race for 3-year-olds, for horses that can't get into the spiral or aren't quite ready for the spiral. And where did you land in the Rushaway?
I landed on Sailing Home for Mark Cassie, and that horse is, you take typically a horse that runs well on turf, and he ran well in the Palm Beach, the Grade 3, where Ticonderoga and Kitten's Cat ran. Got beat by 2 1/4 last out. The buyers are progressive, and he probably couldn't get into the spiral because of earnings. So I think he's a good pick here. He's got an 83 buyer last time out at 1.16 miles. He's got polytrack credentials at Woodbine and at OTC. So I think Sailing Home is my pick here, but a couple other horses got my attention. Royal by Nature, the Irish bred for Brad Cox, coming out of a Belmont turf race last October, ran really well in the Bourbon at Keeneland. And this horse does not have any synthetic form, but has very good turf form. Brad Cox has been hot all year long, so I think Royal by Nature has a real shot. Gorgeous Kitten, you always got to put Mike Maker in there. Had no chance in the Battaglia after getting bothered at the start. Looks like they didn't even try with him after that. And they were trying to get him, obviously, if he wins the Battaglia, he could get in the spiral. So I think he was well-intended but did not have a good trip, and Gorgeous Kitten has a real shot here. Sailing Home would be my pick, but I would also use it exact as it tries. Royal by Nature, the 5, and Gorgeous Kitten, the 6.
Yeah, I'm with you. Pretty much the same as the way you analyzed it. I think you could box those 3 and feel pretty good as far as an exacta. I very nearly went to Royal by Nature. And, when it comes time to placing a bet, if there's much of a price difference between that one and Sailing Home, I might talk myself into Royal by Nature. But I'm going to go Sailing Home. I like the record on synthetic. I like that Le Peru stays, and there's some trouble in the last race, a little bit of trouble there, too. Besides the other 2 you mentioned, William Amazing, I thought was a little interesting just because this horse hasn't lost. Hey Mike was another one. When it comes to the Pick 4, it's you have to make some budget decisions because I couldn't find a single anywhere. But the William Amazing, the 9, just in case he's just that good, he's stepping up into much tougher company. But I thought that one was a little intriguing as well. But Sailing Home is my pick also. The 9th race is the Grade 3 Bourbonette Oaks, 3-year-old fillies, companion to the spiral, but it's at a different distance, a mile. So post position's a bigger issue in this race, although it didn't factor into my decision. I ended up going to the 3 over the 6. It was really close. For me, I took Dark Wings over Dubai, shipping in for Jerry Hollendorfer. He's very sharp when he picks his spots to come in and ship in for a race. And this horse is coming off synthetic track success that's Golden Gate. So I'm going to take the 3, Dark Wings over Dubai, slightly over Delphine, the 6, who had a big 87 buyer on this track and a couple of bullet works since. So I think I'll probably take a stand with those 2 in the Pick 4 ticket, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Dark Wings over Dubai. China Grove might be next on my list, maybe. Then Purely a Dream, the 10. If you want to go one more, Gilded Lily, the 8. But my win pick is the 3 horse. How about you?
The way I looked at this race is I had 3 elements here that I looked at when I handicapped it, and I landed on those 3 horses in this order. Delphinia is my pick here for Wesley Ward, and Garcia's 6 for 16 at Turfway meet, so doing very well. The Cincinnati Trophy, she won by 7 lengths going away, and it actually came out a little bit at the start and won easily at 6.5. I think she'll love stretching out to a mile. So she's the one with the home court advantage with a win over the track. My second pick is Dark Wings over Dubai, your pick, shipping in from Golden Gate with experience over synthetic, but no home court experience. So I think the shipper for Hollendorfer is a very good angle there that kind of picked a spot for her where he thinks that she'll do well. She's 2 for 2 at Golden Gate. But my third one is a horse that you didn't mention, and that's the one with the back class. I don't really know what's gone wrong with Fun for Ian Wilkes this year, but last year she was considered a marginal grade 1 filly as a 2-year-old and ran well in the spin-away, came back in the Alcibiades and only got beat by 3 lengths to Daddy's Little Darling and Dancing Rags. So Fun was on top of her game last year. Something went wrong over the winter, and she hasn't matured to her 3-year-old season, but she does have that back class. And I think if you look at the horses she ran against last year, I think you got to give her a shot in this $100,000 stake. So those are the 3 horses that I would use in that order. Delphinium the 6 over Dark Wings over Dubai, your horse for 3. And I would throw Fun in there in the exactas and tries with an outside chance. You might get 10 to 1 on her, and I think it could be a good bet.
Let's move to the 10th race. It's the Grade 3 Spiral for 3-year-olds going a mile and an eighth. So there's the full length of the Turfway stretch to run before they get to that first turn. Makes post position not as much of an issue, I think, in this race. Who did you land on in the Spiral?
I landed on a lot of them in the Spiral. I am going to single somebody to pick 4. This one's it's not an outstanding field, but it's a balanced field. And the one I landed on, if you told me I had to bet on one horse, is going to be Kitten's Cat, the 8 for Ramsey and Joe Sharp. Ramsey seems to always find a horse that can get into this race and get him into the Derby. That's his goal. Don't know if he's got another Derby contender, but this is obviously, if you win this race, you've got a free pass to the Derby with all the points. So I think Kitten's Cat is probably my pick. I'm not that crazy about him, but he did run well in the Palm Beach. He's got all turf experience, so he's shifted over to synthetic. So that's kind of a negative. The other horses that I like, Giant Payday for Ian Wilkes, who came out of the same rate, the Palm Beach at Gulfstream, was just a couple lengths behind Kitten's Cat. El Hance, Kendall Hansen is trying to have a good day at Turfway. He's got a lot of horses in. This horse didn't run that well in the Battaglia, but did finish second. Takes a step forward off the WEBN, and he had an 83 buyer in that first race over the Turfway synthetic. So he's got 2 wins at Turfway. Also won in December. So he's got actually 2 wins out of the last 3 at Turfway. So I think he's got good form. Convict Pike, the 4, had a race over the synthetic at Ocala and has really good turf form. So I can make a real case for Rusty Arnold's horse here. I think moving forward off a maiden special weight win at 7.5 furlongs at Gulfstream and then getting that race over the synthetic at the training track, a non-wagering event, is really good. Solio for Graham Motion. I'm always going to throw Graham Motions in there. Shipping from Santa Anita to Turfway. No synthetic experience, but also has a shot. And the other one I'd throw in here is King and His Court, the 11, which is a Canadian bred who's actually eligible for the Triple Crown up there, and they're shipping him down as Mark Cassie's taking a shot here. For those of you who don't know what King and His Court means, you're probably not old enough, but it used to be a great softball team that traveled the United States. Eddie, and I can't think of his last name, but it was Eddie somebody. That's the King and His Court. That's my picks. Those 5 horses are the ones I'd use in the pick 4, but Kitten's Cat, the 8, is actually my choice for Mike Maker and Mr. Ramsey. I'm sorry, Joe Sharp and Mr. Ramsey.
I understand. You mentioned the price horse that I like in here, and it's Convict Pike. I thought this was, as you said, a wide open spot, so no standout. And I thought this was a spot to look for a price, and I like the steadily improving buyer speed figure pattern for this horse. Workouts look strong, including a bullet last month for Rusty Arnold, and he's not a guy that burns them up in the morning. And this horse, as you mentioned, ran well on the synthetic last time, going around 2 turns. And so it looks like an improving horse, good post. I think should handle a mile and an eighth easily. And for the price, I just thought I would take a shot with Convict Pike here. Solio, 2, the 8 Kitten's Cat, I think would probably be leading contenders. Fast and Accurate intrigued me a little bit in here. Out of the 3 hole for Mike Maker, this horse had a real nice improvement in his win on the turf last time at Gulfstream, first start in about 2.5 months. So it looks like he kind of woke up, and I thought that was an interesting horse. Ian Wilkes has Giant Payday that's sixth, beaten only 3 lengths last time in the Grade 3 Palm Beach behind Kitten's Cat, who we both like in here, so wasn't beaten that far. I think he's worth considering, and regally bred to just love, stretching out to 1 mile and 1/8 for the first time. And if you want to go even deeper, Parlor, the 9, coming off a nice maiden win, but I'm not sure if he's quite ready to tackle these yet. And then, you get Bronson, a Todd Pletcher allowance winner, coming into a stake. That's been a strong formula this year and in many years, and that horse is sitting there 10-1. So there are a lot of intriguing options in here, but I'm going to take Convict Pike. Going to spread deep here in the pick 4 when we talk about that ticket. For the race, if you're betting a gimmick for the race, I would say use a box and hope for a couple of big prices. So I'd take Convict Pike with Solio, Kitten's Cat, Giant Payday, Fast and Accurate if you can afford to go 5 deep, 4, 2, 8, 6, 3 in an exacta box. But my shaky win pick, the 4, Convict Pike. 11th race is a maiden special that finishes up the pick 4, the second pick 4 of the day. I took So Random for McPeak, first-time starter, giving away some experience here, slightly over the entry, the Ramsey entry of Kitten Solution and Night's Dream. The 6, Harangue, I would include as well. So I'd take 4 horses in the maiden race. So my pick 4 ticket, I'm going to start out with Sailing Home, Royal by Nature, Gorgeous Kitten, those 3 we mentioned. Then I'm going to use Wings Over Dubai, Dark Wings Over Dubai, and Delphenia, 3 and 6. I'm going to take 6 horses in the spiral. The 5 I mentioned, and I'm going to throw in the Pletcher horse. And then the 4 I mentioned in the maiden race. So that's 3 by 2 by 6 by 3. How about you?
I'm going to single the first leg. We talked about the very first leg having 3 horses in here, but I'm going to take a shot with Sailing Home, the 7. I think that he could be a standout here for Mark Casse. So I'm going to single the 7, Sailing Home in the first leg. Leaves me a lot of spread in the next couple. So second leg, I think 3, 6, 7 with Dark Wings Over Dubai, Delphenia, and Fun. I think that covers it. So I'm 7 with 3, 6, 7. In the spiral, the Jack Cincinnati spiral, I went 6 deep with the 2 Solio, the 4 Convict Pike, the 6 Giant Payday, the 8 Kitten's Cat, the 11 King in His Court, and the 12 Enhance. And then 4 deep in the last leg with So Random, the 3, Harangue, the 6, Enhanced Edition, the 8, and then the entry of Kitten Solution and Night's Dream. So 1, 3, 6, 8 there. If I have more money, I would also throw So Random in for Kenny McPeak. And maybe, this is the kind of race a first-time starter could win. So you don't even throw out the unknown first-time starters like the 7, 'Tis Time to Elevate. But go as deep as you can in that last leg. It's kind of a wide-open maiden race, and the spiral is wide open as well. So the all button would not be a bad idea if you can single early.
What about a quick thought on the Dubai World Cup?
Quick thought on Dubai World Cup. Well, there's a horse in here that's 1-3. I have never seen on PPs 1-3. I've seen 1-4 in New York, but I've never seen 1-3. I don't know if it's a misprint or if that's the way they actually figure the odds over in Dubai. They can't bet on it over there, so somebody set this morning line at 1-3 for Arrogate, which is probably accurate. He's probably going to be 1-5. But I am intrigued a lot by Gunrunner. Gunrunner, the 5 horse here, and then Arrogate drew the 9. I think it's a 2-horse race, and I think Gunrunner did not get to run in the Pegasus because of the outbreak at Fairgrounds and was not able to ship. From all indications, he was ready to go, and he's been training up a storm, and he is a class horse, and he's done everything that everybody has asked of him. Can he beat Arrogate? Who knows? They traveled halfway across the world. Who knows who ships better? But I promise you, if Gunrunner is 8-1, like it is in the morning line, and Arrogate's 1-3, I'm going to bet Gunrunner at 8-1. And Giroux, one of my favorite jockeys, has traveled over there to ride him. I don't think there's much else in here that can challenge those 2 horses. I think Keen Ice and Opportunity, even Baffert was on the radio yesterday saying, hey, Opportunity gets a piece. If he gets a piece of a $10 million race, that's a pretty good piece. So I think it's a 2-horse race. I'd love to see Arrogate for selfish reasons. I mean, he's got a lot of Keeneland connections, but, so does Gunrunner. So I think it's going to come down to the stretch run, and whoever ships the better. Gunrunner is much better value at somewhere. It may not be 8-1, but it will surely be 5 or 6-1.
I think from a betting standpoint, Arrogate's my pick, but from a betting standpoint, I think you go one or two ways. Three ways. The third option would be just to pass the race from a betting standpoint and watch it. But I think you look at Arrogate over some prices to fill out an exacta, or you try to beat him and get a nice price on Gunrunner. If I bet it, I think I'm going to go Arrogate over some prices and try to knock Gunrunner out of the 2-hole. Lonnie and Mupta Hidge have both run well on that track, and then Awardee, the 7. Another one looks like in good form at a big price, 30-1, I think, on the morning line. Try to find a decent price to make the exacta pay a little better. But the most likely scenario is probably Arrogate, Gunrunner, and a very chalky exacta for the World Cup. Best of luck. The World Cup races, I think first one goes off at 7:45 Eastern. So late Kentucky game on Friday, up early to play the races on Keeneland Select or at the simulcasting outlets if you're going to go for the first Dubai World Cup race. So it's going to be a fun day of racing, Jim.
It is. It's a long day of racing, and hopefully we'll all be happy that morning after the Cats win Friday night. But it will be open at the Red Mile simulcast facility bright and early at 7:30, and we'll be able to take wagers on all the races from Dubai. And by the time the World Cup rolls around at 12:45 or so, the other tracks, the Gulfstreams and the Tampas of the world, and Turfway with their big card, which we've already previewed. So it's going to be a big day of racing at Red Mile and on Keeneland Select. So it's and the prelude to next week, which is the Louisiana Derby and the Florida Derby.
Yeah, big weekend coming up. So we'll be back with another edition then for the In the Money podcast here at KeenelandSelect.com. KeenelandSelect.com. Keeneland